And this means for thousands of years, the elite, the architects, and even modern cryptographers at the NSA, the National Security Agency, have used this alphanumeric language to hide their plans in plain sight. And I'll prove it to you in a second, because we don't guess about the future here. We're decoding the manual that the globalists are using to build the new financial system. And if you want to know what they are planning, you have to stop reading the headlines and start listening to what they're saying that goes much deeper than the surface. For example, Ripple's co-founder Chris Larsen says that they got their Ripple domain from a Grateful Dead superfan. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell admits that he's been a deadhead for over 50 years.
Oh, it was terrific. What can I say? So it was great. I've been a Grateful Dead fan for 50 years. So
now, if you type in Grateful Dead into a gematria calculator, it comes up as triskelion. Now, this ancient triple spiral is the foundation of the Ripple logo. It's about the flow of energy and money. And recently, Donald Trump just appointed the new Fed chair, Kevin Warsh, and listen to what he said.
It would have been even worse for the rest of the world. So that's what we did in crises. And, you know, some of your and my friends on the right, including at institutions we care deeply about, their views then were you should let the system burn down. A phoenix will rise from the ashes. You really have no business in doing this.
Now, in this scene right here in The Simpsons, where the all-seeing eye says,
"Buy crypto, suckers!"
Jesus is sitting right there. Now ask yourself, what is Jesus a member of? The Holy Trinity. But the elite don't just use a cross, they use ancient symbols of the Trinity to hide their tracks. One of those is the triskelion, which is the Ripple logo. The other is the fleur-de-lis. And if you look at the 1988 Economist magazine cover predicting a one world currency, look at the head of the phoenix. Sitting right there is the fleur-de-lis. These aren't separate ideas. They are the same triple flow signature right in plain sight. Now, as you already know, the all-seeing eye in the Simpsons scene is from the dollar bill. And this is the eye of providence, representing God watching over humanity, and specifically the new American nation. And if you type in the phrase on the reverse side of the dollar, annuit coeptis, into gematria, you get Phoenix Rising, One Big Beautiful Bill, and Excellent Burger. Now, seemingly random, but there's no such thing as coincidences, because in one episode, Marge invests into Excellent Burger, and it goes vertical.
I found XLN stock. How much would you like to buy?
I don't know. How's 10 pairs?
Submitting order for 1,000 shares of XLN stock. Please confirm.
Confirm?
Ignoring question mark. Buy order executed.
Oh no, Maggie, I accidentally bought Excellent Burger stock. Alexa, sell those stocks.
Ordering yellow socks.
You get everything wrong. Excellent Burger. Well, they seem to be succeeding, but I'd feel awful if the stock would up. It just went up. We made money. $700.
So that's a subtle nod hinting at the Phoenix Project. Even Brad Garlinghouse was filmed in 2010 walking through the AOL office talking about the Phoenix early stage development.
Our work on Phoenix, which continues to be in kind of alpha/beta, and
now this goes much deeper. The whiteboard in the FedCoin episode shows SHA 256.
Someone posted a solution on the whiteboard. Frank is ruined.
Did I do it? No.
I guess we'll never know.
Which is a cryptographic hash function created by the National Security Agency, the NSA. Well, do you want to know who worked for the NSA previously? Ripple CTO David Schwartz. And in 1988, the same year as the Economist Phoenix cover saying to get ready for a world currency, well, David Schwartz filed a patent for a multi-level distributed processing system the exact same year. And when you plug in David Schwartz into the gematria calculator, it reveals God's secret plan, flip the switch, and XRP one world currency. Now, if this isn't strange enough, if you want to see how deep the rabbit hole really goes, let's look at the Crypto Barn episode from 1997, because it's not what they hid in this episode that is the final piece of the puzzle. It was what was created after this episode aired. And they aren't just guessing that the system will reset. They have hard-coded the migration into the very protocols that run our world. They've built a digital dome, so to speak, around the economy, made of ISO-compliant code. Now, in The Simpsons tapped out game which was developed by EA Games, one of the largest gaming companies in history, they updated the barn. And it's the most expensive property in the game, costing 81,000 coins. But here's the smoking gun that you need to pay attention to. When you tap the crypto barn in the game, the official action is deciphering secret government plans. Now, why would they put that in there? The word deciphering itself means to convert a code into normal language. So they are literally telling you that the government is speaking in code. So when you type in the phrase crypto barn into the gematria calculator, well, it decodes to Phoenix coin, astrology, stronghold, and even triskelion. So the crypto barn isn't just about codes, it's about the storage of wealth and government blockchain secrets. Now, you might be thinking, well, it's just a cartoon name and this is just a coincidence. But if you want to see the technical proof of how these royals and institutions have already switched the tracks, look at the SWIFT roadmap. On November 22nd of 2025, the global banking system hit its literal funeral. That was the day that SWIFT officially decommissioned the legacy MT messaging system, which is the old way of moving money globally. As you know, SWIFT is the preeminent global banking company that pretty much connects every single bank to send money globally, and the world was forced into the new ISO 222 language. Now, if we look at what the roadmap is saying comes next, according to the official Bank of England and ISO 222 standards, April of 2026 is the mandatory gateway. On the website, it says, for the November 2026 ISO changes, we are sharing 3 documents which set out the changes for different groups of real-time gross settlement participants. And we expect to publish the final list of changes in April of 2026. Now, this is the month the Bank of England officially publishes the final technical blueprints for the most aggressive phase of the reset. And why does April matter? Because it marks the end of the first full quarter of the stabilization phase. And this is when the Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank move from just testing the new digital bridge to full data enforcement. And by April, the unstructured addresses, which is the messy, free text way old paper money was tracked, begins its final sunset. In the elite, they are locking the vault doors. They've mandated that by November of 2026, the legacy banking system will only allow transactions that are fully tracked, structured, and monitored. And April is the manual handover. It's the month they give the banks the final blueprint on how to wall off the old world. So if you're still trying to figure this out on your own, when that gateway closes, you aren't just late, you're heading straight into a financial dead zone. And this dead zone is where the do-it-yourself investors end up, the ones who think that they can outsmart a multi-trillion-dollar transition with YouTube rumors or their own Twitter research. It's a state where your wealth is stuck on the old failing rails, but you don't have the technical keys to move it into the new private infrastructure. So you're trapped inside their digital dome, an ISO-compliant cage where they control the off-ramps and the on switch. And in that zone, the old rules of withdrawing your money or private ownership simply no longer apply. You'll be left staring at the screen you can't touch while the rules of the game change overnight.
You know, the original architecture and the way it was made. And what we're doing is we're laying that foundation for the next internet. And we're doing it in a way which is at scale and it's strategic. You know, we're doing it in a piece by piece basis. You know, every phase is thought of, every step is thought of, and we're doing it to bring that mass adoption to create the next internet, which is what we're calling the Internet of Trust. But it's basically re-architecting the fundamental systems and the networks that we use, starting with financial services networks, then moving into government, healthcare, manufacturing, supply chain, IoT. So it's really re-architecting the original floor and creating the next generation of an internet with no trust.
Yeah. Look, so now I commented a little bit of this earlier on. You know, at the core, Ripple really has been a software and blockchain business at its core. We are using blockchain digital assets to solve pain points. We started around moving money around the world. You know, we have this grand vision and ambition that we can enable an internet of value. That value can move the way information moves today. And you know, I've used examples that it's just crazy that you can stream video from the space station, but, you know, for me to send, you know, I'm sitting in California today, and for me to send money into Swiss francs would be, rather slow and rather expensive. And yet it's all just ones and zeros. It's all bits. And so, why can we not do that more efficiently? We started with payments, cross-border payments, because we felt like that was the highest friction point. But we've always had this grander ambition. And a couple times I've commented that, for me, when I think about Amazon, the company today, it started with just books. It was a bookseller. And I viewed Amazon is to books as Ripple is to cross-border payment. And what I mean by that is we have ambitions beyond just cross-border payments to do payments more broadly, but also to really be that infrastructure, and thus the acquisition of Medico, thus the initiative around Liquidity Hub. We have some other initiatives we're working on, but when we think about that infrastructure layer and we think about, do we build that internally? Ripple is about 1,000 people strong now. Do we build it? Do we buy it, as we've done it with the case of Medico? Or do we partner and integrate? And we want to be able to partner with banks and financial institutions and bring a kind of one-stop shop to solve some of the things they are dealing with as they think about how they can use these technologies and answer some of the answer some of the questions that customers are bringing to them.
Let's go to World Economic Forum and Davos. I was invited there this year. Okay.
Yeah.
Couldn't go. We had stuff going on.
Yeah.
And if I were to go, I would have to have the conversation to see what it is. I'm not going to, but anyways, they extended an invitation. Nice of them. Fellow, he had a call with my EA and my couple guys. It was good to go.
Yeah.
Klaus Schwab, I ask you, is he a good guy? I didn't say that. You said, I didn't say that, right? Is he a good guy or not? World Economic Forum, okay? Good organization, bad organization, what's the motive? You saw some of the stuff on the website. They put some stuff that's kind of suspect. You want us to do what? You're going to own nothing and be happy? Weird things that they talked about, some of the messages that comes out.
Now, here's an issue that I know a lot about.
Perfect, and I want to hear it. Why do you think a lot of people who maybe sided with Trump don't trust the World Economic Forum?
Because it's a conference every year in Switzerland, not in the United States, with a lot of very wealthy and powerful people that are getting together. A lot of them are flying in on their private planes. And it's very easy to imagine that when you do that, they must be controlling the world. And, all you need is to get a quick video and take something out that, sort of says the Great Reset, or says, we want you to eat bugs, or whatever it is that's crazy and stupid, and that suddenly becomes the meme for what they're actually discussing. I've gone for 15 years. They have 600 employees. I think they make $400 million a year. I can assure you that no running of the world is being done by the World Economic Forum. The reason they are successful, and the reason that you should probably go, and you would find this out for yourself, and then you could tell everybody exactly what I'm now telling you, is that the most busy people in the world, for whom time is a very precious commodity, can get 5 weeks of work done in 5 days. And that is what they do, because they are able to get their bilaterals all set up with every other business leader in their sector, in related sectors, all these government leaders. They will not take a meeting unless that meeting will get something done. If I go to London, and I haven't been to London in 6 months, and I want to see someone, even if I have no business, I'll say, yeah, Ian's here. Yeah, I'll see Ian for an hour. And there might be nothing to get done in that meeting. You will not take a meeting at the World Economic Forum because it's such a target-rich environment unless you have something concrete that you want to get done in that meeting. So number one, everyone is there. Number two, almost every meeting is productive. And number three, you are filling your time with people that you really want to see. For CEOs who work and finance and foreign ministers whose time is incredibly, incredibly valuable, this is the most target-rich environment, the most productive environment they could possibly have, and that's why they go. And that's why it's successful. And everything else, and the memes that you see about what the WEF is driving in terms of some of the research papers they put out, that's like window dressing that shows that they have like some stuff to talk about in content, but that's not why the WEF works. No, zero. No, you should not at all buy that. You should not.
Well, so you're saying that they cut a clip of what he's saying to eat bugs and do all this stuff?
The song I wrote You might want to hear it in your pod. You'll owe nothing and be happy. Ain't got no cash, ain't got no car, but 24 booster shots in your arm. Owe nothing. Be happy. You can't even buy shit in the store because of your low social credit score. Oh, nothing. Be happy. You'll owe nothing. And be happy. Be happy and eat the bugs.
The GBTD project is evolving to allow banks to have smart accounts, smart bank accounts with new use cases and new products within the bank accounts. The use cases we're exploring are retail, where there's a peer-to-peer payment and a verification of goods to reduce fraud. There's a remortgage use case where a real mortgage is being transferred and settled between banks using tokenized deposits, all orchestrated and programmed automatically. And then there's a bond wholesale use case to issue a new bond, program and automate the settlement of that bond with tokenized deposits. So the evolution of this is building upon that infrastructure and that use case and implementing this within all the banks, initially in the UK, where we're going to allow new smart accounts to be able to solve a lot of complex business problems, workflows, through automation, through programmability, and through orchestration.
One of the reasons you get World War II has to do with the Great Depression. And one of the reasons the Great Depression gets so bad is because this country doesn't want to act as the lender of last resort, which is what Britain had done in the past, but it couldn't after World War I. It had been bankrupted, and our country's irresponsible. These problems are on the other side of the sea, and we think, okay, America first and whatever, and we're going to raise tariffs and things, and all we do is tank the global system. Whereas if you're the lender of last resort, you're going to put money into the system as it's collapsing to prevent it from collapsing so that it can rebound. And yeah, it's expensive, but boy, a Great Depression's a lot more expensive. So they're different problems.
Is there a lender of last resort today?
Isn't that the problem?
You know, that partly because of that macro shift in government policy for the United States.
Interesting. And when it comes to government policy right now, I know we touched on this a little bit the last panel, that there seem to be certain agencies that are kind of giving the green light, full speed ahead. But there are groups like the Fed that are maybe a little bit more tentative. And I'm wondering kind of what your experience has been so far. Do you think that things are going to change when we finally get open a few more openings on the Fed? What are your expectations? Where are we at now? What are your expectations for the next few years?
So I have two thoughts about that. You know, one, and as much as I have enjoyed some of the panels here today, one of the things I would ask everyone to do, both reporters and otherwise, is to hold traditional finance accountable for, yes, I agree, the crypto industry should be held to the same standard around AML, KYC, OFAC compliance. Yes, yes, yes. And we should have the same access to infrastructure like a Fed master account. You can't say one and then combat the other. Like that's disingenuous, and it's hypocritical, and I think we all should call them out for being anti-competitive in that regard. So that's kind of one thought of just, there should be a level playing field. And to the extent we're seeing people act in different ways. Now, the other part I would say, as much as a lot of the Fed managed by this administration, the federal government, not the Fed, as much as that shift has changed, I think some banks are still nervous until those changes are codified into law. The Genius Act obviously helped, and that unlocks, I think, I had meetings yesterday in New York City where banks that would not have talked to us 3 years ago are now leaning in and saying, how can we partner around this?
Around stablecoin.
Around stablecoins, for sure. And again, the delta there is the Genius Act has codified into law. We haven't seen that happen. I mean, again, Ripple has had, we fought the fight and we have clarity that XRP is not a security. But the industry doesn't have that, which I think creates challenges for some of the more conservative banking infrastructure even though they're like, yeah, okay, we're interested, but are they really leaning in because they're worried that in 3 years from now there's another election, and is there a shift? I think that's a little bit too cautionary, because I think every day that goes by, even if without the Clarity Act in place, there's more and more firm policy positions that agencies are taking.
Mm-hmm. And so you think that even though there might be some sort of regulatory shift with the next administration, whoever they are, you're not going to go back to where we were at with Gary Gensler?
I definitely don't think that was. Frankly, I think that was a dark day for technology in the United States, and they were not acting with good intent. And I could spend a whole half an hour session just on that. And I mean, look, you had a federal judge. This is a quote. A federal judge said about the Gensler SEC, "They are not following a faithful allegiance to the law." Yeah, that's pretty damning for a federal judge who happened to be appointed by Obama. That they would come out and say that about a Biden SEC. I don't think we will go back to that. And frankly, I think the ship has sailed. I think that you can't put the genie back in the bottle in the United States. I don't think you really could, even though Biden may have tried with Gensler. But I think now that we are where we are, we are seeing many banks lean in. But for years, the U.S. was a frozen market. I mean, one quick data point is 80% of Ripple's hiring between 2001 and 2004 was non-US, because that's where our customers were.
Yes, much of the cost is because you're moving from one ledger to another. Sorry to get sort of down into the accounting, but you're moving from one fiat currency to another fiat currency, which are in essence kept up on two different ledger systems called two different commercial banking systems in, did you say Tanzania to Nigeria? So you have two different ledger systems. And over the centuries, the whole process of Nostra accounts and the setting up of the account base to do that. It can be done on blockchain and between two central banks, but the thinking is that you might need some bridge currency between Tanzania and Nigeria, and there's a number of blockchain technologies that do that. But basically, instead of SWIFT, which is just a messaging system, and then the banks have to somehow pre-fund in Nostra accounts. I hope I didn't lose too many people, but this is about the technology of banking, not the technology of blockchain. But to go between Tanzania and Nigeria, you need somebody to bear some counterparty risk that the ledgers both move and are adjusted at the same time. Usually it's a bank that is in both countries. You could use blockchain, but the current thinking is you need a bridge currency in between, and that bridge could be a stable value that's backed by the US dollar or the euro. It could be a currency even like Ripple has an alternative. It's just piloted in May, so it's not yet up in any enterprise-wide level, but that you might need something to basically hop, skip, jump. I don't know the currency in Tanzania, but Tanzanian currency to skip to Nigeria, you might need something in the middle, which is called a bridge currency on the blockchain.
The governor of a large central bank in Southeast Asia say to me, if customers were using xRapid, which is Ripple's XRP liquidity, it actually reduces systemic risk to a country, a small economy. Let me explain briefly what that means. Today, in order to, if you're a bank in fill-in-blank country, you pre-fund accounts around the world. If you're a small economy and you're pre-funding billions of whatever the local currency is into other accounts, you actually are losing control over those. And when there are currency runs, when there are challenges for local economies, that creates risk, increases the risk systemically. So if you didn't have to pre-fund, but this is an observation that I didn't make, this is an observation that a central banker made to me, that if all of the banks in this particular country used xRapid, the systemic risk would actually go down because they'd have more sovereign control over their own currency.
And so when you start thinking about enabling an internet of value and some of the decentralized natures of the currency that Chris was talking about, it's how do you get it moving? And the highest friction point, I mean, there's a lot of friction points in payments. There's a reason why FedNow was invested in.
That is, people say, how can you trust, the Fed to do the bookkeeping? I mean, I mean, like I said, my response is, well, you don't expect the Fed to kind of steal your money. I mean, if the Fed can print all the money at once, it's not going to like mess around with your bookkeeping. So, we have this big spreadsheet, the blockchain if you want, but it's just managed by the Fed, and it's very cheap, much cheaper than Bitcoin, if you're willing to delegate the responsibility to a third party. But then the downsides to all of that, of course, is you'd actually suppose you didn't want the Fed to be responsible for processing the payments. I mean, suppose, the Fed will likely impose some KYC restrictions on some purchases. They might not process some purchases that you might want to undertake. And so it was at that point that I said, well, we could, if we wanted to, extend the concept one step further. I'm not saying that this is ever going to happen, but just conceptually, you could imagine not FedWire for all, but kind of like a FedCoin, where what the Fed would do is actually just issue these, Bitcoin-like objects, but and they would enforce a par exchange rate with the U.S. dollar. That would eliminate the exchange rate volatility. But they could delegate the clearing of these payments to some third party, some sort of Ripple-like protocol.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
I have many friends that are earning every single day trading futures on BTCC. It's a simple process, and even if you don't want to learn how to trade, you could follow a trader on the site and let him do the trading for you. And again, I'm not trying to have any of you guys use your hard-earned money to lose anything. You don't know what you're doing? Don't jump into this, but there is money to be made, and don't use your nest egg for leverage trading. Use a separate portfolio. But I suggest learn how to trade. Earn you some extra money on BTCC. It's easy. You don't have to KYC, and you don't have to use a virtual private network VPN. This is a wonderful site. They've been around since 2011. Give them a shot. Also, when you earn that extra money, you can store that on your Decent wallet. The Decent wallet was not affected by the XRPL debacle, where the backdoor of many wallets was open and there was a breach. So Decent wallet was not affected by that. Decent wallet is as safe as you keep your seed phrase. It's a wonderful product, and you can get the discount by using the link. It's the only way to get the affiliate discount, and that is to use an affiliate link. So that link is popping up on the upper right side of your screen, and it is the one that you will use. You will also get free shipping. Pick you up a Decent wallet today. Secure your assets. If you don't have them stored in a wallet and sitting on an exchange, then you're at risk. So pick you one up today. Thank you.